Got a nice full webinar this morning. Thanks guys for taking time to see what we're about. Let me get started. So this is the upload template that when you do subscribe for your 2-week free trial, there'll be a link to a blog post as well as a download for this Excel file. This is how you can then onboard your clients in bulk. It's really intuitive in that all of the system dropdowns have been created as dropdowns in the Excel spreadsheet. So you can't use the incorrect spelling or formats, preventing your upload from failing. We've just added a whole bunch of hashes here. So yours will obviously contain the correct numbers and stuff. Like I said, there's a whole blog post on how to complete this spreadsheet. The only thing that I want to mention here is in the tips and formats spreadsheet or section of the spreadsheet, you'll see that you need to add your accountant as you create your users in Data Grows. Add their names in this column D, because then it will create a drop down for you to select your staff as you assign them to the various departments, which I will explain just now. So rather than typing them out, you can just create a drop down for yourself, as well as the rate groups that are applicable to your firm. Create them in Data Grows and then just add them to this column, and then there will be a drop down as well. A lot of the success of the upload is using the drop downs that exist in the app itself. And then you can switch on the services that you perform for every client by selecting true. And then if false, you can select false or leave it blank. It will default to false. If you guys have any questions or struggle at all with your data upload, please don't hesitate to send support an email, or in the app, there is a help icon where you can click on it and send us a request from in the app. Just complete your email address there and your name if you don't mind, and then we can assist you with any queries. Our support is free of charge, so please don't hesitate, don't pull your hair out, contact our team and we will assist you. Once your upload is complete, you do need to save it as an XLSX file, not a CSV as you would be accustomed to importing into other systems. And the reason for that is so that any of your formatting in terms of cell phone numbers with an apostrophe or your ID numbers that tend to display as scientific values because they're so long, when you save it as a CSV, if you have to reopen it, then you lose all of that formatting, you know, the zeros drop and stuff like that. So the XLSX file allows you to keep that formatting and the color coding to make life a little bit easier when you work with the template, so that if you need to reopen the file, you don't have to start from scratch. So save it as a normal Excel file. And then there's a couple of setups that you need to start with. So you'll have all of the tables on the left here that you will navigate to. Get started in the setup section first, because there are 1 or 2 things that you do need to create. The first one is the accountant table. And this is where you're going to invite your staff members as users. You can use full name or only first name, that's up to you. And then you complete their email address and they will automatically receive an email inviting them into the app where they can create a password and then start working. There's a bit of customization that you can do here. So when you create their name and add their email address, you need to assign a role to them. We need at least 1 admin in the system, and we recommend only 1 admin. And the reason for that is, out of all of the roles, only an admin can delete a client record. To protect all of your tasks, when a client is deleted, all of the tasks that were assigned to them fall away as well. So that's why we only allow the admin to do the deleting. and we recommend one person have that role to protect all of the data in the app. So when a client leaves, rather change their status to inactive than deleting them, and you won't lose any historical tasks or time or anything associated with them. If there are more than one owners in the firm, partners, directors, you can then select the rest of them as partner, and they will have full access to the whole system except for that they cannot delete a client. So it's up to you, but we recommend one admin user only. And then we have the bookkeeper role. This is mainly for smaller firms where people are more all-rounders, if you want to call them that, involved in the bookkeeping up until even drafting financials, submitting tax returns. So they will have access to all of the departments on the left here, and they can access all the clients and do all of the work. And then it will depend on which clients are actually assigned to them in that client table where I showed you the orange columns. And then we have a custom role, which if you select custom, you need to specify which departments this person works in. So if you have somebody that does accounting and payroll, it means that their system tree on the left here will be filtered and tailored to their work. So rather than being all these tables and overwhelming them, the accounting table and the payroll table, as well as the ad hoc tasks and these tables, will be visible to them, and then they can focus on what's assigned to them. If you have someone who, for example, only does secretarial and SARS work, you would then assign the SIPC and tax departments to them. So you can really tailor how your staff use the app. We also have a role called the assistant role, which is a free of charge user who can gain access to the app. It won't count towards your paid licenses. And this is somebody typically like a PA or receptionist who will help you maintain your admin. And so they will be able to access the top section here, as well as the ad hoc tasks section. And that will allow them to maintain client records, capture admin tasks, and those sorts of things. Another feature that we have is when staff leave, rather than you having to reassign every single client one by one. So should Jane leave the firm and her replacement comes in with the thinking that she will take over all of Jane's clients, or at least the majority of Jane's clients, you can use this hand over all work to function. And when you save the record, all clients assigned to Jane will change over to Sue. And then you just need to make sure that you take away the access from the staff member who's left so that the license will be available to add Sue. It's a nice way to, rather than go record by record, now try and reshuffle things. You can do majority to Sue and then still go and fine tune it if it wasn't all of Jane's clients. So that is the accountant setup. And then in the firm settings, please click on the record where it says My Firm and complete the information here for us as much as you can. It also allows staff to access, your practitioner information quickly. And then importantly, in terms of using the timekeeping function, is the time rounding. You need to specify to us how you guys round your time. If you do use the timekeeping function, we actually automate the rounding for you depending on the selection that you select. In terms of this accounting system, we are currently able to integrate with Sage. It should be going live this month or next month. And then we're going to start integrating with Xero. So just for now, select which accounting system you use for your firm's accounts, okay, not your clients, but your firm's accounts. And then when our API is live, you can complete the username and password, and we will be able to maintain client records and automate your billing for you. In the meantime, you can specify your invoice payment terms. So if it's 30 days, if it's 7 days, just specify that, as well as the date that you do your billing. So if it's the last day of the previous month, the first day of the current month, or the current date, and then how you raise your invoices in your accounting system, if it's directly to the GL accounts or from an item list. And the reason for this part is currently we do actually create an invoice table in the app based on your time worked. And then when we integrate to Sage or Xero, it will be able to generate your invoices automatically. So if you do the setup now, you don't need to do it later. And then we come to the rate group, which I did make reference to in the Excel spreadsheet. You will see a layout generated for you, a template of sort of generic terms. You're welcome to edit these. Simply click on it. You can rename it and make a note as it makes sense to you. We've just given an example of how it can be populated. So you can delete them and start from scratch by adding a record. That's up to you. But the reason for the rate group and the rates is that you can assign to each client a rate group that they belong to. So for example, you've got your smaller companies who might be on retainer small, medium, large. You might have non-profits who you offer discounted rates, or underprivileged clients that you offer a discounted rate to. You might even have free of charge clients, but you still want to record the time. So the rate groups, as they make sense to you, need to be created and assigned to each individual client. And then in the rates table, every task that our timer can pick up, so accounting, all of the SARS tasks, SIPC tasks, which I'll show you, EMP 201, payroll, VAT returns, all that kind of thing. For every task that you work on, you need to create a record. So again, you will see a whole template laid out for you. You need to insert the rate that you charge, specify if it's an hourly or a fixed rate. In other words, does the time work affect the quantity that you invoice? You can give an invoice description if it differs from what we label the task as. So if you would prefer it to be processing of bank statements, invoices, journals, for example, and then specify whether the task is billable or not. So things like annual leave, you might want the time recorded, but not necessarily bill for it, okay? And then for every rate group, you need to add the tasks that will be worked on within that rate group. So it takes a little bit of time, which is why we have created a template for you. You'll see there are 291 tasks there. And so my recommendation to update this in the quickest way possible, you can add this table, download it to Excel. And in this section, you will work with a CSV, but you can then here sort via rate group, add your rate groups, copy and paste. It's just a little bit quicker to then add your values, make sure that you haven't missed any of them. And then you can, in this section, upload that file, and then it will correct this for you. So then you would just delete all and upload your Excel. Okay. Again, if you guys get stuck with this part, it's really important to make billing not a stressful thing. I hate it personally. So your rate setup here is going to make a huge difference. I went from taking 3 days to do my invoices to 3 hours, just to give you an idea of how effective this is. But the setup is important. If you get stuck, just send us a help and we'll help you guys set it up properly. Okay. So that's the setup section. I will come back to some of the other processes that we have in here. But once this part is done, you can then upload your data. And so you've got to come to the data upload table, and you'll see no record to begin with. So click add record, and then you'll see that a sub tab, when you click save and edit, will open in order to access the documents. So click save and edit. Okay, and then go to the document, and we're going to upload that XLSX that I worked on with all the client data. Click save, and then under details, just come back and save the record. And then you'll see after about 30 seconds that the process by system will populate a date and time, and the status will change to processed. And the note should tell me how many client records it uploaded. If there's any errors, such as misspelling an accountant, for example, because the rest are drop downs, it's a lot easier. But if you misspell accountant, an accountant's name versus what you created them in the table, it will actually tell you to the column and cell number where the mistake is. So it's really intuitive and really easy to get it right. So there you'll see when I refresh, the processed by system data is completed and it uploaded 42 clients. So just check that that number agrees to your Excel, and then just come to the clients table on the left and make sure that 42 is the value. Okay, so that nothing was missed. It will not upload duplicates. So if a client's name is exactly the same, it's only going to bring in the first one, because it can't duplicate a client record. Okay. And then here you can see all of the information that I have populated. The status is important because only active clients will schedule tasks. So any inactive or pending clients are not actually going to schedule any of the services turned on for them. So that's why I was saying when a client leaves, don't delete their record, change their status to inactive. And if they're pending, it would be something like you've sent them the quote, an engagement letter they haven't yet accepted, but you've created a record for them. Okay. And here you can see all of the tasks that are catered for and automated. And a lot of the assumptions are around entity type, registration dates, and year end. So those are important fields to complete. Okay. In the client table, you will see a column called bank statements, and you'll see in the Excel the three options to select in the drop down are self-download, bank feed, and request statement. And that links to the accounting task, the monthly accounting task, because if you select request statement, we've created an email that you can, in the process table, you can run this process to send an email to your client. Here you can see mine is scheduled for the 1st of the month or the next working day. It will email the client that has the request statement as their bank statement. So the contact in the client table for Ubuntu will receive an email from David, their accountant, saying, please send your bank statement for the month ending June. And then they can reply on that email and reply directly to the accountant sending that bank statement. So it's a really nice feature. We will not email your clients unless you place a value in the schedule record. So by default, this is blank for you. In other words, you haven't given us permission to schedule it. And so when you then select a date, you will authorize us to email the clients that have that request bank statement task line item. Okay. And it's also really clever. You'll see if there are any July tasks. So for accounting, we schedule the previous month and the current month. It will not send out an email requesting July bank statements because we're still in July. So only from August will it request July. Okay. And then once you receive the statement in the accounting table, where it says request statements or for any of them, just mark the statement received as ticked, so that when we get to this time of the month, if some of them still haven't responded to you, which we all know happens, you can rerun that process, and all of the clients who have not been marked as statement received will receive that email a second time. So you don't have to go and type it, follow it up, find it yourself. The system will just prompt them a second time to send that statement. Okay. All right. We have a dashboard of all the tasks due for every single accountant, sorted by due date based on every task that we schedule and account for. And you will see that you can filter. So on any table, you can filter. And so here, for example, if I want to focus on one staff member, you can see all of the tasks coming up for Jane. And the heading then where there is a value, it means that she has 9 accounting tasks due by the 15th of July. She missed 3 compensation funds on the 30th of April. And so that, for me, being a really old due date, I want to go and see why they were not completed. So you simply click on the blue 3. It takes you to that table and filters on her name on that date. And you can see if any work has actually been done. So it's a nice management review tool, but also for Jane herself to actually see, but I'm sure I did complete these. I just forgot to mark it in the app. And so let's say, for example, Jane did do these, everything was paid. You don't have to, if it's a bulk, I'm done with these tasks, she could open each of them, tick them, and then mark their status as completed. Because when you change the status of any task to completed, you'll see if I click save, it pops from the active table into the archive table of that table. So you don't have to delete them to complete them. You simply change their status, and then it moves from the current to-do list to the archive table. You can also undo that if it was accidentally selected. Just change the status to anything else, and it will pop back to the original table. And then if Jane realized her 3 were actually completed and she doesn't feel, and it's, I mean, that's your guys' internal process that you'll have to decide on, but you do have the option to bulk complete tasks as well. So in your initial upload, you might find a whole bunch of tasks that we've automated that by the 20th of the month, you've already completed. There is a select action mark complete. And if you run it, it will just archive all of them and mark them as complete. Okay, so that option is available on all of the tables. If we come back to the all tasks due, you'll notice that I navigated away, but the filter that I put on for Jane has stayed. So they're sticky filters, I like to call them. You don't need to, while you're investigating something, constantly have to refilter when you leave a table. Just remember, if things don't look the way that you expect them to, look out for this blue icon, because it means that a filter is active. You can click on it and change it to the next thing that you want to focus on, or you can click on the X to clear it. Okay, and there you can see. This dashboard, you will receive a weekly email in Excel with a summary like this, split by accountant, as well as a detailed view of each accountant, each client, each task. So it's a really detailed email that gets sent out on a Monday morning each week. And so no one has any excuse to forget any tasks that are assigned to them. Okay. You can also sort on any column. You can sort ascending, descending. You can sort in any table, any column that we have created. Okay. And then a really awesome feature, a new feature, is the chats feature. And this is an in-app chat where you guys can, on any record for any client, begin a chat, and you can at each other, so assign it to each other, so that it appears in that person's My Chat. So to give you an example, if we come to accounting, and let's say David is now done with this company's accounting and needs somebody else to review it, he will click on the chat bubble, okay, and then he can say at, and the whole list of accountants pops up. And so his manager or person responsible for reviewing, he can then add them, maybe not yell at them in caps, but he can add them and type this, give information, etc., and then send the message. And then in Yarpy's My Chats, he will see a record with a 1 by the unread message count. And if he clicks on it, it will navigate first to the table so that you can see any work that's been done and any notes made in that table. And if he then clicks on the speech bubble, he can then reply to David and carry on the conversation. When the conversation is done, all either Yarpy or David needs to do is click on the actual chat and change the status to completed or read, okay? And then what it does is either archives it like that, or if you mark it as read, sorry, wrong place. If you change the status to read, you will see that it stays in your chat, but the unread message count is 0. So then it's up to the next person to reply or at them again. But you can then always access that chat. So if it's an ongoing issue, you can then just click on the bubble, the number, and go back to that chat. Okay, and that option is available on all of the tables. It is available, and you can then communicate with each other, and it shows you the table, the client, and all that information. So it's a really nice feature. Okay. We have a few reports that I can show you as well. That all tasks due to-do list that gets emailed on a weekly basis is available as a report. So this is a preview of what it would look like. It just comes to you in Excel form. So here you can see it's sorted by accountant. Anything in red has been missed. The deadline has passed. Anything in yellow is due in the coming week. And then in white is thereafter for the next 30 days. So it rolls over in 30-day increments in this view. And so you can just navigate through that. And here is the detail that I spoke about. So that's David. He's the accountant. These are the tasks and these are the clients. So it's really detailed in terms of what he has to plan himself for the next 30 days. Okay. And then we have the time to invoice report. So I haven't shown you the time log function. Let me start there. On any task that is saved, okay, these ones I need to create with you. So let's go to one where it's populated. But if you click on a record, you'll see that the timer goes from gray to blue. And that is how you will keep your time. So your staff need to get into the habit of opening a record because they're going to use it to remind themselves of what to do, but then to also time. And you'll see if I hover over the timer, it tells me which clients and which task I'm currently working on. And you can navigate away. You'll see that the timer continues. You can be logged out of the app. You can lose internet connection, lose power to your machine. The timer doesn't stop until you push stop. So while it's safe in the sense that you will never lose any time because of any interruptions, you do need to remember to click stop. And so if on a Friday afternoon you're like me and you're tired and over the whole thing and you forget to push stop on a Friday afternoon, and then you log in on a Monday and suddenly it's 72 hours later, you can come to the time log table, click on the record, and simply edit the end time to what it actually was. So check your emails. If you can remember what the last thing was that you worked on, what time you left the office, you can then just edit the end time. And you'll see I can even go a little into the future just to show you that the duration does update immediately. Okay, here you'll see the rounding that I spoke of in the firm settings, how it has applied now. There is my actual duration, 25 minutes, but I've rounded it to an hour. So we give you the hours and the decimal for easy billing. Okay. So that is how the timer function works. The general staff will see the time log table and the archive, and then admin and partner will see the invoice table, the authorized table, and invoice pending table. Okay. You will come to the time authorized table to authorize records weekly, daily, monthly. If you guys are quite a big firm, I would recommend daily even, because any errors, any excessive time can immediately be picked up and discussed with the accountant so that you can sort out the issue before you need to raise your invoice. So it's really nice in the sense that it is a live timesheet. No more posting of timesheets, no more manual capturing or anything like that. The app automates it for you. Okay. But then you as the admin or partner, but in the time authorized table, you then need to authorize it to mark it to invoice pending or mark it as internal. So things like leave, power failures, anything that you wouldn't charge for, you would mark it as internal, excuse me, and then it will archive that time. Okay. If you mark it as invoice pending and click run, and you come to this table, you will then be able to use the process, okay, generate invoices. And this is where I said we already do create an invoice table, and it's like real-time live billing. So you don't necessarily need to integrate with your accounting system, but at least you have an idea of what your revenue looks like. So how far you take our integration is up to you. I know a lot of people use Practice Technician, for example, for retainer clients. This is a really nice place to do ad hoc work, ad hoc billing and timing. Okay, so like I say, it's up to you. But in the time invoice pending, any client who has an assigned rate group where the task, the description, is linked to a rate, if you come to the process, I just want to make sure this client is in a rate group. Sorry. Okay, he is in a rate group. So in process, if I select generate invoices, okay, and I change the action to process, I haven't selected a schedule, so you could automate it. If you guys are confident in your staff keeping their time accurately, you can even automate this process as well, and it will schedule on the date that you select it. But human intervention is always either here nor there, so you need to decide whether you want to automate your ad hoc. But if you just change the action to process, okay, you'll see that the last run date is our current time. And then there will be no more time left in invoice pending if the invoice was successful. And if you come to the invoice table, an invoice will be generated for that client, almost like a pivot on the task as well as the total time worked, depending on whether it was a fixed rate or an hourly rate. It will then multiply it by that. And if you come to the invoice lines, so you'll see this client was on retainer large. And so even though I worked an hour, his full retainer has now been invoiced. So there's a lot of capability, like I said, in terms of automating your billing. And that's why the rates and rate group are so important to set up. Okay. And then back to the report, you can then use the time to invoice report. If you choose to do your billing manually, you can specify a time. I just want to go to a database with a few more records. 1 second. Just to show you
So
what.
Mariska, the other one also doesn't have records at this point because we had to change the data.
Oh, okay. Do you think beta has?
Yes,
I'm
beta
going to
would
try.
have.
I just want to show you
Okay.
guys what it looks like. Thanks, Lynn. So the time to invoice report, you would then just specify a date range. So I'm just going to go a little bit further back so that I can show you a couple of records. And then you can select a status as either invoiced, pending, or invoice pending. So depending on what you want to see, you can even go back and check your revenue for previous months, make sure it agrees to your system, etc. And then if you click view, you'll see the client name, the tasks that were worked, and then the duration that was applied. And this is the rounded duration, as well as the rate, rate type, rate group, and then totals of the invoice. So you've really got real access, real-time access to your billing information. And then on page 2, we then do it per accountant. So this is now David's time and Yapi's time in the last 2 months. Obviously, we just don't have a lot of test data to show you guys, but here you can see what each person is actually doing. And we're going to introduce another table shortly to capture what the staff cost is, so their hourly rates, hourly targets, daily targets, etc., so that you can really see if your staff are working efficiently, are they costing you money, are they making you money, those kinds of insights that we will be building into the app as well. Okay, so let me just go back to my demo. Okay, then there are a couple of tables that I just want to show you in terms of really cool features. A lot of it is self-explanatory, and where needed, we have put tooltips into the headings, so you can just hover over them. But under ad hoc tasks, we've got firm and ad hoc tasks, which is a manual table, things that we don't schedule for because they are literally ad hoc. So if you click add record, you'll see a drop down of tasks to select from. Okay, and so asset verification for an audit, for example, is not something that necessarily happens at the same time every year, ideally on the last day or the first day of the next year, but we know things happen. So you can assign it to a client if it's applicable, give it a status in progress. You can assign it to an accountant and partner or manager, and then make notes and give it a due date. So if we need to go tomorrow, you will then click save and edit or save and new. And then it can be timed on then. Documents can be saved if needed. And then we're going to start adding a couple of reports to the various tables. But now David will have this under his all tasks due because it has a due date, and it can be tracked and worked on. Okay. And then we have a really cool table. So a lot of the tasks that or tables that we've created, the columns are kind of set and very general. The specialized task table is a table that you can create a task for any description that you can think of that needs to recur more than once. So things like monthly EFTs to a client's suppliers, if you're responsible for that. If you need to physically pay the staff, you can schedule that. Filing, remembering little nuances of clients. So I encourage my staff to make any note that is unique to that client, to schedule it in the specialized tasks so that they don't have to remember. So if they have a funny way of invoicing their clients, or if you have to receive a whole bunch of schedules in order to complete the accounting, then create a specialized task and schedule it every month, and then you don't have to remember because it's there. Okay. Now, the way you create that, you'll see this table is blank and there is no add record button. In the setup section, there is a specialized scheduler, and this is available to all staff. They are responsible and capable of creating their own tasks and reminders for themselves. So you'll click add record in the scheduler and name it whatever you want. So if it's pay supplies, if it's billing at a certain time that's sort of different or unique for that client, whatever you can think of, you can name that here. And then you can give a description. So if it is pay, I'm just trying to think of random supplier names. Okay, let's say, for example, okay, you've got to EFT those guys, you can make that there. And then if it's a specific time of the month, maybe you want to know about it 5 days before the due date, you will then schedule it for the 15th and make it due on the 20th. But everything we schedule is working day, because a reminder on a Saturday helps nobody. So you'll see a lot of our stuff say working day, because then at least if the 20th falls on a Saturday, you will be reminded of it on the Friday and then actually be able to make that payment when it was due. Okay. And then you just need to select a department, and this is the same drop down as the rate groups, so that whatever rate this task needs to be applied to, you need to then select it. Since the name can be so unique, we need a way to link it back to your rates, because then you can actually time on the task and then still get the billing for it. Then you obviously need to assign it to a client so that it shows you which client you need to work on. And then the accountant will assign themselves and their manager or partner if they need to. Okay. Then when you click save, the very first time it will automatically schedule the task. So even though we've passed our schedule date for July, it's going to pop it through there so that you can see that it needs to be done today. Okay, today is the due date for this task. And so there you can see that it needs to be completed. Notes can then be made. You can time on it, you can chat on it, and then complete it when it's done. And then every month going forward, on the 15th or the closest working day, a new task is going to be scheduled. So it's a really, really nice way to keep track of little nuances within every client or admin task for that matter that you need to be reminded of. I say remembering is like 90% of the stress in my life. So make a task for whatever. And then if you find that the table is quite long, filter on the client. So when you're working on Brilliant Body, filter on them, and then you'll know these are the tasks that I need to do for them. You can then complete them, time on them, etc., etc. So the filters, because they're quite sticky while you're working on things, you don't have to keep repeating your filter. Okay, that's a really useful table. And it also helps you, if any of our headings are too general, to kind of detail what needs to be done for staff. Okay. I've shown you a little bit of the accounting table, but this is your basic bookkeeping. So you can track through bank recon, invoices, journals, management reports. The management reports, this column also gets switched on in the client table. And so that would be your queue as manager. Or if the person is senior enough to send it themselves to the clients, to just be prompted and reminded to do them. Ideally, we know we want to do management reports for all of our clients. So then the tick should be on for all of them. And then as partner or manager, you will come and check. Once the accountant is done, they will say, please review the management reports. And then you as partner can say in review or reviewed. And then the accountant knows, okay, they can complete this task. Everything went well. Okay. Then have the VAT returns table. And this is really clever in terms of how it schedules. So you'll see here that we have currently monthly client scheduling and even vendors scheduling due end of July. So you're not going to see any odd vendors in the month of July because you cannot complete them now. They will schedule on the 1st of August due the 31st of August. Okay. So when you do your data upload, depending on which month that falls, you'll either see odd or even vendors and then the monthly guys. And then you can track through the VAT return over there and make notes. And then we have the CIPC annual returns, and this schedules according to the entity type. So it knows whether a PTY, CC, non-profit, any of the CIPC registered entities, it will schedule it based on the registration date. So that's really important field to complete for your CIPC registered entities, so that the annual return schedules in the correct period. And you'll see the due date defaults to the 1st of the month that they were registered in, so that you have enough time to prepare yourself, hopefully calculate the annual return fee and recover that money from your clients as quick as possible. Okay, so that's that table. Then we come to another manual table, which is the CIPC tasks table. And it's manual because these are things, again, that we can't possibly know when they would occur. And so here are the current options. Just a note, if there's anything that we haven't thought of in terms of the ad hoc tasks, CIPC and SARS tasks, please don't hesitate to send us an email, and we'll gladly add it to any of the lists that it applies to. Okay, but you can here, for example, select I want to show you the company registration. So if it's a new client, pop their name in their proposed name or create a record just so that you can track this, because you will need to select from the client table. Okay. You can give it a status. I generally say in progress means I'm working on it. So that's sort of the status that I give. You would then assign it to accountant and partner, and then this part will come later. So now I'm going to click save and edit. And then my subtask opens up, okay? And we've listed every single document needed in the CIPC and SARS tasks needed in order to complete that task successfully. So again, remembering is 90% of the stress. You don't need to remember what is needed to successfully do this task in a timeful or timeless manner. We've listed them there for you. And where available, we've created a couple of templates for you to download as well. So you'll see the mandate to lodge a new registration. If you click on the little arrow, the Word document will download and you can open it and complete it. So there it is. Okay. We also do the share certificate template. You're welcome to make use of it, change it. If you don't like my color scheme, that's fine. But just to help you complete these kinds of tasks without it costing you more money than you make off of it. Okay. And like I say, you can then make note of each of the documents that are needed. So entity type, for example, put it in the description, the type that they chose. You can make note of the date you requested and received it from the client. If it's the kind of client you need to justify yourself to, then if you've requested it 2 weeks ago and they're asking why it's not done, you can come to your app and see, but you haven't actually received what you asked for. Okay. And then the really cool part about this, once I've lodged the task with CIPC, in other words, I've gone in and I've created the transaction and I've received my email from them with my tracking number. You need to create the dates here, or select the date, sorry, so that the app can calculate the due date, your 10 days in which you need to respond to SIPC so that you don't have to do this over again. So that's for SIPC, the date that you create the transaction with them. And you'll see when you click save, the due date calculates in 10 calendar days. Okay. And then tomorrow it starts counting in calendar days so that you can watch that golden number of 10. Okay. There's nothing more frustrating than getting everything signed and forgetting to email it to SIPC and then having to ask your client to sign again. So now you don't have to stress about that. We'll count that for you and you can make sure that you get everything sent to them. And then you can add a date there that you emailed them. And then when it's completed, create that date and then obviously change the status to completed. Okay. Likewise for SARS, the other table is the SARS tasks table. And that again is a drop down of about 22 to 24 tasks. So if there's any here that we haven't added, please let us know and we'll add it as well as its subtasks. But you'll see here, like everybody's favorite, update public officer. Okay, you will select it, give it a status. You can specify the period, for example, for VAT returns. It's useful to know which of the many verifications you're dealing with. And then you can make notes of an appointment date if you have it. You can paste your case number here. So when you call SARS, you've got everything available to you actually in Data Grows to speak to them, to verify yourself and then sort out the case. You would then assign it to a client, to an accountant, etc., etc. So same process. And then when you click save and edit, in the SARS subtask, again, we've listed every document that you'll need in order to successfully complete the task. And SARS has a lot of their own forms that we've linked a download link to. So the blank proof of residence form, you'll see that that opens a blank PDF for you that you can then complete. And then the resolution, we've given you a template for. Okay, the letter in order to update that they need to take the selfie with so that you can do it electronically. Okay, as well as the upload link. So if you guys don't know, you can actually do the request via an upload link. You don't need an appointment with SARS. It's a little bit more risky in the sense that they can reject you, but you can do it this way, and we have provided the link for you in that task. Okay, and then once you have uploaded your documents to SARS, so if you've used the online query link for this one and you save the uploaded date, you will see in working days, the due date counts to 21 working days, because by then you should have received a response or you can now escalate. So for VAT verifications, for anything, we count the working days, turnaround time that SARS offers, and you know when you can escalate. In the same way, the day counter now counts in working days so that you know when it hits 21, you can make that phone call. You don't have to diarize that because we do it for you. Okay. Let me see. So we've got the financials and income tax table, and this is mainly for SIPC registered entities to track all the way to their ITR 14. If you have individuals or sole proprietors who need financials done, please add them as a record, and then you can track through them. Okay. And the other thing is for audits. If you see here, this engagement type, let's say, is an audit. Okay. We've got a sub tab there called financials team. And here you can actually assign more than one person to the team so that all tasks due will update with this record. So it's really nice for team planning purposes. If you've got a whole bunch of clerks who need to be on various audits at various times, you can assign them to that, but you can then assign your team, and then they know, for example, not to take leave, or you won't double book them because they're already on a team for a particular set of financials that need to be audited. So in the client table, outside of the data upload, you can add them one by one, as time goes by now. So click on add record and then just expand the little window on that arrow, because the layout is just a little bit easier to see. And then complete the fields as they apply, and you'll see a lot of tooltips in this table explaining what the various headings mean. You can add a comment, you can give the registration date, and then the year end is important in terms of the financials and provisional tax that will schedule. Okay, so that is a very important field. You can enter in the contact information, statutory registration numbers, and then assign the staff members as they apply in your company setup. Okay, so as there are departments, assign them in that way, and then you switch on the services as they apply. You can capture logins as well for easy access, and then additional details like address, are they on retainer, referred by, a rating. This is really a subjective field depending on you guys. And then you can capture director information as well. And then if you click save and edit, I just want to turn on a couple more tasks here. If you click save and edit in the client record, and for any client record, you can now navigate to the various task tables within their record. And if the service is switched on, you will see a filter in their table to them. Okay, and then you can work on them and complete it that way. And another really, really cool feature, in the details tab, you'll see a little share button. And this is kind of the only record currently that I would say share with your clients. But if you want them to complete their information and onboard their stuff, you can click on the share button and copy the URL. And this link will be active for 72 hours only. So they can't, like in 6 months time, come and mess with their information. But for 72 hours, they can access this form and this form only. You'll see there's no way to navigate away or into the app. It is encrypted, but they can then save their information and save you time. And you'll see when they make their change, and click save, it gives them a little tick there. And if you come back to the database and just refresh the client table, you'll see that their changes do take effect. So it's really nice. You can also share, internally, you guys can share any record where the share button is available, and that link does work. Okay, so it's a really nice way to communicate with each other and with your clients in the app as well. Okay, so in the client table, on any client record, if you scroll to the end of our very many columns here, you'll see that there's a summary column. And if you click on the little arrow there, it will give you a summary report on that client for all of their information, as well as the tasks that are coming up that have been scheduled for them. So where it's empty, it means that the service is on, but nothing has been scheduled. But you can then see what needs to be done for every single client. And then there's another really cool dashboard under setup called services not used. And this indicates to you for every single client, based on their entity type, what we say is the possible tasks that you could offer them. So it's kind of like increase your scope of work a little dashboard to see, am I doing enough? Have I offered everything to this client that I possibly could? And then you can navigate to their record, switch it on if you've noticed a mistake, for example, or if you then offer them and they accept the quote for the additional work. So it's a really cool dashboard just to see what I should be doing for that client. And so, for example, here, if you click on this one, where all of these are X's, it will take you to their record in the client table. And you'll see the ones that had X's, it's basically the opposite. So it's telling you you have switched them on, but all the others, are they registered for VAT? Do they have payroll? It is a subsidiary registered entity. Why aren't you doing their provisional tax return? So things like that, just to help you set up your clients correctly. Cool. I think that's it. Unless anyone has any more questions. If there's anything, like I say, don't hesitate to use the help icon at the bottom of your app, or you can email support@mydatagrows.com. And like I said, support free of charge. We assist with the data upload, with any queries that you might have, so that the app works for you guys. And we really, really appreciate feedback, suggestions, anything that you find the app is lacking. Please do send us those helping tips, because we rely on you guys to help us improve and upgrade the app constantly. But thank you very much for joining us, and yeah, we hope to see you guys as users in the near future.